have a problem that in the sessions for that we are retrieving when we first write to the session to store the current user, but then the session to retrieve the current user are not the same. And the reason that that's happening is that on the client, these fetch operations, they need to say that they're participating in a session. They need to say, hey, um, I'm going to pass you a cookie, and it's the same cookie, right? So that you know that it's the same session. Right? By default, fetch does not participate in a session. Right? It does not by default send the cookie. Right? And all fetch that want to participate in the same session need to be in agreement that they are in a session. So for instance, in our register component, what we need to do is say that I am passing some credentials and that I am including the cookies, right, are being passed as credentials. Now, this will tell the server that, okay, so you are participating in a session. I am going to use the cookie that you provide here in your fetch, and it's going to be the same cookie, right, whenever you pass me again credential includes. So in the profile, we're also going to say that we are participating in a session, and we're also going to say credential include. Since both are now passing the credential include, right, they will both be using the same session. Okay, so let's we still have the breakpoints here on the server. Let's try it out again. Let's go back to the register and register as someone else, Frank. And let's register. Oops, okay, the server's not running. Let's start the server. Start it in debug mode. Let's try it again. Let's clear this. Register. And here we go. So if we hover over the session, notice that the ID is BXWP, right? It ends with ACL. Right? If we continue, we hover over the session, notice that it's the same BXWP, ACL. Right, so it is the same exact session from before. Right, so hopefully current user is indeed in there. So let's continue. And notice that now profile does have the information that came from the previous screen. Right, and it's getting this information from the session. Notice also, right, as I refresh the screen, it goes back to the server, retrieving the current session, right, the current user. Right, and that's where it's getting the information to be able to retrieve it and save it. Notice that the URL doesn't have any information here that it would need to that would be encoded in the URL to be able to figure out that this is Frank. Right? Up to this point, we've always been using the URL to encode the state of the application. Now we're not, right? And most of the times, yes, we want to use the URL to encode state information. But sometimes things such as this that are private, that we don't want to divulge any private information, or like IDs or usernames or anything like that, that's safer to store that kind of information on the server side.